What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? This is gonna be your review for Family or Fiance. I always want to say Family or Finance, and I know the word isn't finance. The word is Fiance. For some reason, that's what wants to come out. Season 1, episode 3. I wasn't gonna do this review tonight. I was gonna wait till tomorrow because it's late and I'm tired. It's been a long day, but this episode was so good to me that I really wanted to just go ahead and go ahead and speak on it, drop it, upload it, and everything. Um, the couple is you see I didn't put no lipstick on or nothing. The couple is Felicia and Chris, and they met in church. The first thing that struck me about them was that they have a really great chemistry. Chris was joking, and she just laughed. I mean, he would crack a joke, and she laughed like it was the funniest thing she had ever heard. And it wasn't patronizing. It was really like he really cracks her up. And he was funny. I thought he was had a cute personality too. The other thing that really struck me is their faith. And that was evident throughout the episode and on both sides of the family. That faith was very strong to both of them, and to their families. And that I definitely could respect. Chris family, they have a great tradition. They're from Guyana, and if I'm wrong, but I believe they were from Guyana. So a lot of what we're dealing with, it's not just the basic, oh, give me your blessing and you're cool with it. It has a deeper meaning in their culture. One of the people that Chris brought was his uncle, who was an elder, and that's how he referred to him, as an elder. And one of the things his uncle said, I'm jumping around, but one of the things his uncle said was, I need to teach you how to be a king. And so you see that there's this is bigger than just, I give you my blessing because, like we think of American, but in their culture it goes deeper. And his mother even said that at one point. Again, I'm jumping around, but his mother even said that at one point. She said, you know how important my blessing is. You know what that means. And he was like, yeah, you know. They come in to meet with Tracy. I keep wanting to say Terry, but we know it's Tracy McMillan. And, she does her normal. By now it's the 3rd episode, so you know what you're getting. It's a very, the program is a very cookie cutter program. Like, you see a lot of the same activities recycled. However, it works. And in this episode, it worked really, really well. Felicia said that she feels like his mother just doesn't like her, and she nitpicks, and she keeps finding reasons not to like her. She said, but I think at the end of the day, it boils down to her not being ready to let her son go. And I'm a ditto that, and I'm going to come back to that in a minute. For Felicia's side, she's bringing her best friend, her mom, and her brother. On Chris's side, it's his mom, his uncle, and his sister. And so they're talking or whatever. And she asked him, she said, what does the blessing mean? Like, if your mother does not give you her blessing, what does that mean for your relationship? And he said, well, if my mother doesn't give us her blessing, then I can't move forward. Because again, this is deeper than just, yes, yeah, I'm cool with it. And I think that sort of took Felicia aback for a second, kind of like, oh, really? But they've been together for a while, and they've been engaged for 2 years. But you can tell they've been together for a minute. So the families get there, and they hug, and, they go through whatever they go through. And Felicia was even saying how his mom didn't even really give her a real hug. And he was trying to tell her, well, in my culture, she was like, forget culture. It's being polite. Somebody hugs you, you hug them back. And I was like, well, I can see that. So, as they were going around the room, you know how they do at the beginning. Do you give your blessing? Do you give your blessing? Do you give your blessing? And that's when the uncle said what he said about meaning to teach him how to be a king. And he said, I need to, if you are open to that, you're open to my lessons, then we'll see. And everybody seemed to kind of be somewhat on board. The big person was the mom. So they get to the mother, and the mother starts talking. And the minute the mother starts talking, And she brought up something that I guess something had happened on Facebook, something Felicia must have posted on Facebook. She's over the children's ministry, and something she did offended his mom. And he goes off. He was like, Mom, that happened years ago. She's already apologized for that. Why are you still bringing that up? Why? And he really goes off on his mother. And in my mind, he was, again, I'm on the outside looking in. I get a 30-minute snippet of a 3-day process and of a 8-year relationship. But in my mind, he was a little disrespectful. But what ended up happening was, what we find out later on was, he said he felt like he hadn't been defending Felicia. And in that moment, he was just tired. And he felt like he needed to defend her. And that's what he did. And it probably came overboard. Because, when stuff builds up and builds up and builds up and builds up, then it goes boom, boom. It doesn't go boom, it goes boom. And I believe that's what happened in that moment. It built up, it built up, it built up. And then when he finally got ready to tell his mama, get back to, it just all came out. And he ended up walking out. Felicia's crying. Everybody's sitting around kind of like, oh my goodness. She goes out to talk to him. And she's telling him, you are wrong. Like, you just did too much. Like, you've got to let her talk. Let your mother talk. And then his uncle came out and said the same thing. He said, look, this is what we're here for. We're here to hear everybody's issues, even if it's an issue that happened 5 years ago, even if it's an issue that Felicia apologized for. Clearly it's something that still bothers your mother, and that is why we're here. You've got to let her talk, hear what she has to say, and then you can respond. But he said, but remember what I told you about learning how to be a king? That's not what a king would do. And he's telling him, like, that's not it. He goes back inside, and I feel like the first thing he should have done was apologize, but he did not. He sort of moved along with the process and said, okay, well, Uncle Kwame, that was his name. He said, Uncle Kwame, you said you want to teach me how to be a king. That's what I want to, I want to talk to you, and I want you to, tell me what it is you think I need to know, and so forth. And the ladies are going to go shopping because Felicia wants them to know that she does want to learn more about their culture and know more about the history, and that she's vested in that. So, he has a good conversation with Kwame while they're gone. And, Kwame, he's talking to him about, just being mature and being ready. He said, basically, he's just like, look, this is the only time, we just want to make sure that it's not personal against her. It's all about you and whether we think you're ready for the next steps. Basically what I saw today tells me you're not ready. And that was the other thing they were saying. They were like, look, when you do this, when you blow up at her like that, you're giving her all the ammunition for her to say, so you're not ready for this. Look at you. Because one of the things she said was he was immature. And she said, look, you're giving your mom the ammunition when you act like this. And so, when the women went shopping, I feel like a little bit of the ice had been cracked. The mom was talking to her, because they were in an African garb shop. And the mom was talking to her about what the different items were and what the name was, like in their, and please nobody take it to be disrespectful, but in their language. I don't know if it's a Guyanese, I don't know. But in their language. When I was in Kenya, it was Swahili, so I don't want to assume that it's Guyanese. I don't want to assume what it is, because it's not. They don't speak Kenyan, they speak Swahili. You know what I'm saying? So, but she was identified different, and then she was talking about the dances and and she was even joking. She said, you got to do this and you got to stick your butt out, and they sort of had a moment. And she said, I want you to know that I love your son. I don't want to, I feel like you don't like me. I feel like no matter what I do, it's just not good enough, and that you just don't like me. And she used the example. She said, a few weeks ago I was really sick, and you didn't even call to check on me. She said, but when you got sick, I called you, and I wanted to come visit you, and you wouldn't even let me come visit you. And I was like, wow, that's deep. And, and again, they didn't get into what the sickness was. I mean, it could have been the flu. It could have been something more serious. But it was obviously something to the point where she felt like her future mother-in-law could have checked on her. So, we're talking about more than a cold. And then when she said, and I called you and wanted to come visit you, and you would let me. And I was just like, wow, that's kind of deep. Um, but I feel like a little bit of the ice had been cracked in that moment, but clearly they had a long way to go. But I respect that Felicia was honest with her and said, look, I feel like you don't like me, and it doesn't matter what I do. No matter what I do, you just don't like me. And the sister was there too. But the sister didn't say a whole lot, unlike the sister last week. Sister didn't say a whole lot. She just kind of was just, peeping the situation. They get back to the house, and they're cooking. And her friend says, look, I want to talk to you. And she said, well, I'm kind of cooking. Because, again, she's trying to impress her mother-in-law. And the mother-in-law, they're cooking traditional food from their home country. And so she's like, I'm trying, girl, give me a minute. I'm going to come and talk to you. I'm trying to, impress her. Show her I'm trying to cook, But they do end up going to talk. And she said, look, I'm not used to seeing you cry, and that bothered me. And I just want to check on you and make sure you're okay. And she said, the only time I really see you cry is in church. And again, you just see where that faith is there. So they go to church together. And you know what I mean? It's not just no fly-by-night situation with them. Like, their faith is a part of their life. Excuse me. And y'all know what I'm talking about. There's some people that, they holiday Christians. And there's other people that, they once every couple of months Christians. And I'm not saying that going to church means you are or aren't a Christian. But y'all know what I'm talking about. People who go to church and da-da-da-da. So they sit down for dinner, and Uncle Kwame blesses the food, and he says a nice prayer. And again, like I said, you could see how everybody was very reverent during the prayer, and you could just tell that this wasn't new, or this wasn't, you have somebody at the table that don't never pray over their food. They pick up the fork, and then they see everybody else pray. It's like, oh shoot, we gotta pray first. Oh, okay, you know what I'm saying? But everybody was on the same page, and then they just ate. And Chris even said, well, if anybody has anything to say, feel free to share it. We having a dinner or whatever. You ain't hear nothing but forks hitting the plate, honey. And then the mother finally got up and said, I think I left the stove on. Let me go in the kitchen. And she probably went in the kitchen and cried. The camera didn't follow her. But I'm thinking she might have had a moment. I don't know. Because when she came back out, she said, I'm done. So they washed the dishes and they went to bed. And Felicia's mom said, well, let's see if a good night's sleep puts her in a better mood tomorrow. And I was like, ooh, that's a little much. Because, I'm going to assume that Kwame, I'm not going to assume. I'm going to say that because their father was never in their life. So I'm going to think that Kwame is either a really, really good friend from the church that they just call their uncle, or Kwame is her brother. I'm not sure. I don't think Kwame is from their father's side, because their father was never a part of their life, they said. So the next morning, he has a conversation with his sister. Let me tell y'all something. The episode could have ended after this conversation, because the sister gave it to them point blank and broke it down. At the end of the day, what it boiled down to was, the sister said, look, he said, you've been real quiet. She said, I've just been observing. She said, it really bothered me the way you went off on Mommy, because I'm not used to seeing her cry, and I felt like that was really disrespectful, and it bothered me. And she even got a little teared up. But what she told her brother, and like I said, this was the realest sentence of the whole episode. She said, you've always been her king, and she's not ready to let you go. It doesn't matter who he brought through that door. It could have been the Queen of Zamunda. It didn't matter. She's not ready to let him go, because it's always just been the three of them, and she has always put him on the pedestal as the king of the house. And let me tell y'all something. We all know women like that, and I'm not saying that in a mean way about this woman, because I don't think there was any malice there. But we know that there are women like this who, because they didn't have the husband in the home or a steady relationship, their son became the head of the household, and I don't mean this in no type of Oedipus Rex kind of way, but they were treated as such. And so now that he has found another woman that's going to come in, because she made a couple of comments throughout the episode, I should be first, like when they were doing a tour of the house and he was talking about the walk-in closet, and he was like, yeah, I'm going to build one of these for Felicia. She was like, you got to build one for me first. I'm your mother. I come first. And she made that comment. Well, he didn't say he said he built it for. He was joking. But anyway, he she said that a couple of times about her being first and her being the mother, and that he should put her first before anybody. And that's, the sister had it, I mean, once the sister talked, that should have been the end of all of that. Because at the end of the day, she's right. That's really what this was, in my opinion. And I think that's what Kwame was trying to tell him too, but not quite in those blunt terms. So the next morning they meet with the doctor again, and he talks to her about what happened the night before and everything. And she basically tells him, look, you're going to have to talk to your mom about why you blew up at her, and you're going to have to really just put your foot down. And he said, you know, if I say all that, he's like, I don't want to die. He said, because I'm probably going to die. And the doctor said some real shit to him too. I mean, he was joking, but what the doctor said was, she said, but the person who will die will be that boy. And that is when you'll become a man. When you can stand up to your mother and let your mother know in a respectful way, this is who I'm going to marry, this is who I love, and I want your blessing, but I don't need it. She said, and that's when you'll become a man. She said, you're going to die, but the boy is going to die. I said, now that's some real shit. That was some real shit right there. And they had to talk. And Mama still didn't seem like she was with it. But, like he said, she was listening. She didn't try to talk over him. She didn't try to cut him off. She listened to what he had to say. And he told her, he said, Mom, and that's when he was saying, you know how important your blessing is. You know what that means. He said, but you've got to understand. He said, because he said, when I was born, what did you want from me? She said, I wanted, I wanted sky's the limit or something to that effect. And, damn, what did she say? Whatever she said, he was like, Felicia makes me that person. She said, you said you wanted the best for me. She makes me a better person. And you got to understand that and Felicia said, well, I feel like when you say that, I feel that you're saying that I don't make him I'm not good enough for him, because you said that he's not there yet, but he's been with me. So what does that say? And so she sort of excused herself, because she said, you know what, I'm going to excuse myself, because this isn't about me. This is about the two of y'all. And I thought that was very mature, that she didn't get caught up in the, well, what are you saying about me? What you trying to say about me? She didn't get caught up in that. She said, it's not about me. I'm going to move over here to the side. And she exits stage left. And like I said, they had the conversation, and the mother told him, she said, after he said what he had to say, Mama said, I'm not ready. She said, I hear what you're telling me, but I'm just not ready to let you go. I'm not ready yet. And again, she said the same thing Crystal said. She said, I'm not ready. You are my king. I'm not ready to let you go yet. And again, that's not even about Felicia. That's about the two of y'all. So they're having dinner, and again, they cook traditional food, but this time they did 20 questions, but they did it a little different than they've done the last two episodes. Everybody asked questions, and while they were eating dinner, they answered the questions that other people asked. And they asked some silly questions. Some of them, one, like the brother put in there, who's your favorite brother? That kind of stuff. It was silly questions, but I think you had to write who was writing the question, and then who the question was to. And it was fun, and they were laughing. Like, it was genuine. They were genuinely having a good time. The two families were having a good time. They were laughing and joking with each other. They were answering the questions. They were being a little comedic, and it was light. Even when it got around to because like the first question was about what is Chris's favorite food, and Mama got the question wrong, but the fiance knew. You see what I'm saying? And I think that by the end of that, and all of them said that. All of them said this was fun. It was light. It was no tension. We all just had a good time. We were able to kind of get to know each other, and it was good. And I said, you know what? That's probably that scene was just great. That was everything. And so the next morning, they go and talk to the doctor again, and the doctor even said, she said, y'all's body language is even different. She said, we saw a scene with a brother and Uncle Kwame were talking. Like, everybody just seemed to be really getting along. And like I said, even Mama was laughing and everything. It was good, y'all. It was so good. And I'm talking longer than I meant to talk. But anyway, they had their last check-in with the doctor. And the doctor said, she said, y'all are sitting closer. Y'all's body language is better. And Chris said in that moment, he said, at the beginning of this, I thought that if I didn't get my mother's blessing, then I wouldn't be able to move forward. He said, but I realize now that as much as I want my mother's blessing, I don't need my mother's blessing. And we're going to move forward. And Felicia said, the blessing in all of this, she said, even if we don't get her blessing, the blessing in all of this was the experience. She said this was a great experience. This was a great weekend for us, for the families to meet, for us to talk. And I think this was one of their better, this was a great episode. It just really was. So when they went back to front of the family and asked for the blessing, and they, of course, they saved mama for last, but the brother said, hey, he said, I just didn't know you. I didn't know the family. He said, I just wanted to get an opportunity to meet the family. And now that I met the family and I've had a chance to have good conversations and I feel like I've sort of bonded with everybody, he was like, I'm good. Y'all got my blessings. The mother was saying, her mother said, got my blessings. She said, I was just worried because I never understood why your mother didn't like my daughter, but I feel better about the situation. Like, I just feel, she said, because I realized that it just doesn't matter. Y'all, it's about y'all and y'all's love. You know what I mean? They got to Uncle Kwame. Uncle Kwame said, I said I wanted to teach you how to be a king. And, of course you can't do that in one weekend. He said, but you were open to everything I said to you. You listened. He said, you're teachable. He said, and as long as you are teachable, then I can give you what you need. And for that, you have my blessing. So they asked the sister, Crystal. And Crystal said, she said, I wasn't sure. I was worried. She said, because if my mother is not on board, then I'm not on. I don't know how I can be on board. She said, but you have my blessing. And then her friend said, she said, I feel like there's still some work that needs to be done, but I feel a lot better now than I did going in. She said, but I don't know how much my blessing means if a parent still doesn't give a blessing, right? So they get to the mom. And of course they had to be dramatic, go to commercial break and come back. And basically what the mother said was, she said, I didn't want y'all to feel like I was a bad person, because she brought that up, that she felt like he embarrassed her in front of them and sort of humiliated them. Like I said, I never saw him apologize, which I feel like he owed his mom that. But anyway, but she said, after hearing, listening, experiencing, so forth and so on, she said, I'm going to give my blessing. She said, but understand, I can take it back. She said, if you disrespect me again, I'll take my blessing back. I said, okay now. But she said, she just didn't want she didn't want to come off as the bad guy. She said she felt like she walked in the house and everybody already was hated her or was mad at her. She didn't use the hate word, but you know what I'm saying? Y'all, this was a good episode. And then, how they always give us the update. They got married. Uncle Kwame officiated the ceremony. Mama was there and she blessed it, so I wish them the best. I hope they are doing well, and I like them. I really did. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Drop it in the comments. Peace.